सच्चित् सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे ॐ स्वामी विवेकानन्दाय नमः। स्वामी विवेकानन्दाय नमो नमः। Namaskaram to one and all. Greetings and good wishes to all the youngsters in the name of the youth icon and one of the tallest man in the millennium, Swami Vivekananda. My congratulations and appreciations to the Akhila Kerala Bhav Prachar Parishad members, Youth Wing, for evincing interest in the youths and spreading the life-making ideas of Swami Vivekananda available to them by arranging for this meeting. Everyone who is engaged in this program will be blessed by the inspiring blessings of Swami Vivekananda and his divine power. 12th January is quite lucky a date, just a day before the 13th, which is considered unlucky, and this 12th January happens to be the English birth date of Swami Vivekananda. His appearance on the Indian and world scene brought great luck and benefits for our country, and this got India a great upward swing as he appeared on the world platform. His appearance decisively turned the attention of the whole world on India in a positive and healthy way, and this had great impact at the world level because other countries were looking at India with a look that was quite disrespectful and demeaning for India. And had India continued in that way, the world would have lost the valuable treasures of yoga and Vedanta, which the West is now greatly admiring and feels that it is beneficial for them. And India would have found it difficult to progress as the other nations would have marched ahead of it. Now India is a power to reckon with. And within a few years, we will find that India will be a power to be followed, like as it happened during the times of great Gautama Buddha, when our nation, Bharat Mata, conquered the other countries with its spiritual power, spreading love, peace, joy, and unified development of all nations together. This remarkable change was brought about by this one single man, Swami Vivekananda, and that when we Indians were slaves. And you know, slaves have no place in society and nobody respects them. In fact, once in France, Swami Vivekananda could not get a haircut because of racial prejudice and that he was from a slave nation, India. You also know how Mahatma Gandhiji was ill-treated and thrown out of the train. It was during those times that Swami Vivekananda landed in the West and strode on the Western soil like a colossus. United States newspapers hailed him as the cyclonic Hindu monk of India, and the whole of United States and other countries paid their honors and ovation to him. There are streets in United States named after Swami Vivekananda. After his advent, in India, even girls have started naming their children or naming themselves as Vivekanandi. That was the power and impact of this one single man having a tremendous sweep over the minds of Indians and the people the world over. The benefit of getting Vivekananda was and is that our confidence level gets boosted up seeing one of us with a magnificent personality doing amazing things and the world remains conquered. Just like we see Indian team performing in Australia, almost to be defeated, coming out of the verge of the defeat and drawing the match. Similarly, when we see our own person doing something spectacular, the adrenaline starts flowing and we feel so proud of that man being an Indian, and our whole confidence level and faith in ourselves rises up far higher and higher. Vivekananda's presence, personality, his preachings and prophetic utterances raised the esteem of Indians in the minds of the Westerners. He was the first person to boldly declare that our motherland India has a lesson to teach to the West. In fact, he had clearly seen that the world is in need of light and that the light is with India only, and India will have to sit in the world arena of nations as the guru of all countries. From slaves getting boot kicks to world teacher India, the magic transformation in the mental attitude was brought about by this one single man, the great Swami Vivekananda. That is why his life, his message, and everything connected with him has become so significant for Indians, especially the youth. And that is why the 12th January assumes extraordinary importance for all the youths of India. A youth can have a person, any person, a sports star, a movie star, a musician, a writer, a poet, scientist, or a politician also as their hero. They can have them as an ideal or a hero or model. No doubt all of them are great, but all of them touch or cover one aspect of life. While Swami Vivekananda represents every aspirations of the life of a youngster, physical, mental, moral, intellectual and spiritual, and he was quite successful, and that too during the youth stage of his life. He achieved all this glory and proved that the valuable period of life is youth, and every wonderful things he got for himself and gave it to the whole world was during the period of youth. That is a time for a man to perform and peak in life. That's why the youth period of life is one of the most glorious and very spectacular part of our life. And for such a life, we require a man in whom we can see our dream coming true. In the life of Swami Vivekananda, he not only spoke but lived the life, a life full of heroic deeds. He lived what he spoke and spoke what he lived, and inspired many in achieving the greatness in life, not only in India but also in other countries. The special thing about him was he was not contained within the boundaries of religion, nationality, race, language, creed or cult. Absolutely frontierless, like the fresh and cool sky on a full moon day, Vivekananda was connected to the total humanity. His heart simply throbbed not for God alone, but for man, you and me, who he claimed to be his real God. He was a monk steeped in the realization that God alone is true, and having experienced God face to face, Vivekananda surprises and stuns us when he says man is the greatest God that ever existed, existing and will exist. In another place, he really steals our heart when he remarks, I may have to be born again, for I have fallen in love with man. Something fantastic. A man who has seen God face to face and experienced God in every aspect of his life says that he has fallen in love with man, the human beings. He was not God-centered alone, but God in man-centered, and therefore he was and is immensely practical, sensible, universal in appeal and charming to every age group, especially to youngsters, through his bold utterances made during his speeches. Like He says it is better to play football than to read Bhagavad Gita. For with your muscles, biceps more strong, you will be able to understand Gita more better. So who can be more adaptable and suitable to youth than this man whose very looks give a definition as to how a lover of God, immersed in the love of human beings, will look like. The flaming eyes, but full of compassion. This was the magnificent personality of Swami Vivekananda as you look at his image. Unlike other saints, Vivekananda achieved everything during the youth period of his life. He preached and lived what he preached, which we can understand and get a glimpse of through his life incidents. I will just narrate to you a few incidents which are so captivating and inspiring that we can really feel here is a man who can show to youth what he speaks and what the marvelous sayings of his convey. Once in England, when Swami Vivekananda was walking along with an Englishman and an Englishwoman, suddenly from nowhere a fierce mad bull came charging at them. You know, bull charging, the famous Jallikattu incident in Tamil Nadu, where youngsters who are full of strength and vitality try to control the mad bull. The Jallikattu has become a famous incident all over India. But before Tamil Nadu's Jallikattu became famous, Swami Vivekananda gives a demonstrative glimpse of how an Indian will meet. A valorous, courageous, strong Indian can control the bull in one of the most fascinating ways. As the bull came charging, the Englishman, who was among the rulers of India, who was supposed to be very bold and courageous, full of manliness, suddenly got frightened, ran towards the nearby tree and climbed on the tree and placed himself very safely on the top of the tree, leaving the Englishwoman to the danger of bull coming and hitting her. It was at this time, this marvelous personality, Swami Vivekananda, a man from the slave nation, rose to the full heights of his personality. Sizing the situation of Englishwoman being left alone, Swami Vivekananda, the man from the slave country, suddenly came in between the bull and the Englishwoman with his hands folded, mind calm and quiet, body ready to take up any assaults from the bull. He intently stared at the bull. For a few minutes, the bull looked at Swami Vivekananda. It's magic what happened we didn't know or we don't know. The bull calm and quietly became silent and left the place and went away. After a few seconds, when the Englishman climbing down the tree and came and joined the group, Vivekananda patted him on the back and told, "Bravo, the great Englishman, the ruler of our country." So here we see Swami Vivekananda's message of boldness, courage, and all those things have been very clearly and practically demonstrated in his life. And that as a young man he has demonstrated this, captivating our imagination and our admiration for him. Once in India, as he was traveling in the train, being a monk, he was traveling in the compartment with two Englishmen in front of him. Seeing monk, the two Englishmen started teasing him and started accusing and talking in a demeaning way in English. Swami Vivekananda, the man of great strength and courage, held himself and calm and quietly was traveling. At a particular station, when the train halted, Swami Vivekananda asked the station master, "Sir, can you fetch me a glass of water?" The station master got him a glass of water, and as the train started, the two Englishmen were taken by surprise to know that this mendicant, the poor begging monk, knew English and he could talk English so beautifully and fluently. They asked, "Oh, you know English?" And Vivekananda replied, "Yes, I know." "But then why did you keep quiet when we were accusing and teasing you and playing with you?" Vivekananda, opening his already big eyes, smilingly told, "This is not the first time I am seeing fools in my life." Irritated by this, the two Englishmen got up to fight. It was then that the marvelous personality of Swami Vivekananda came out. Swami Vivekananda rolled up his sleeves, the muscular body and the fire-emitting eyes. Vivekananda told, "I am also ready for the wrestling bout." Looking at the fierce Shiva Rupa, Tandava Rupa, Rudra Rupa, the Englishman became silent and sat down. Referring to this incident, Swami Vivekananda says that we Indians refuse to demand or ask for the respect which we are due for. Most of the time we become subdued and become meek and humble, but this humbleness is not going to get esteem or respect for you anywhere. So this is the tremendous classic behavior of an Indian warrior monk, as he was called by Annie Besant. We'll move to next incident where the supreme courage and the intensity of the boldness of Swami Vivekananda comes to the fore. In the West, after lecturing and becoming famous after the Chicago Parliament of Religion's wonderful speech, Vivekananda's name was flagging all over the United States, and that marvelous looking personality full of purity and fire, the face looking like the child of a god, a rich widow, very beautiful and young, came to Swami Vivekananda and told, "Sir, I would like to marry you." Any Indian would have fallen for that offer, but not the strong and the powerful personality of Swami Vivekananda. Opening his eyes more bigger, Vivekananda smilingly asked that lady, "Why do you want to marry me?" And the lady replied, "If I marry you, I can get a child and I can train him to become another Vivekananda." Rising to the full heights of his personality, Vivekananda laughed and told, "Marry me, get a child and train him to become another Vivekananda. Why to take so much trouble? Mother, I am already your child." This is the classic signature behavior of a true Indian character, looking upon women as mother. So here we see how Indians can present themselves in front of women and how we glorify and respect women. And this is a supreme character of Indian culture and spirituality. And Vivekananda has shown it in his life when offers came like this. Not only was this the time when women came to offer themselves to Vivekananda, even as a college student, when he was well built, when he was hardly in 20s, when the desires of the flesh will be on a conflagration on full fire, Vivekananda was singing in his room. Hearing the melodious voice, one of the young widow nearby got attracted to his melodious voice, and she used to keep her door open. During examination times, Vivekananda used to come to this room of his grandmother and spend most of the time in hard studies preparing for examination. And in between, he used to burst out in beautiful melodious songs. Hearing the beauty of the song, the beauty of the voice, the widow, young beautiful widow, got attracted. Slowly, she became attracted to Swami Vivekananda also. One day she came and she took courage to come to his room and tell Vivekananda that she will put an end to his poverty. Vivekananda was very poor at that time, one of the richest person in the Calcutta. As his father died, Vivekananda plunged into an abysmal of poverty and financial distress. So Vivekananda, though he was offered an avenue to come out of the poverty by the tempting young widow of Calcutta, following the values of morality and ethics, keeping up the supreme purity of life, with folded hands, undisturbed mind, told, "Mother, death is staring at you. Get ready for the eventuality of death, which is the door to be shut on your life, and take to God." So that is the real behavior of an Indian youth who can, with great courage, moral strength and character strength, can surmount the difficulties and temptations of life. So these are some of the heroic deeds which we can see in the life of Swami Vivekananda. One more interesting event comes to my mind, which is quite interesting and inspiring for the youth who are aiming at success. For every success, a dedicated, involved and one-pointed, focused mind is essential. Once Swami Vivekananda was passing through the streets of the United States, where at a particular place he saw young men divided into two teams, and they were playing a peculiar game of shooting eggshells which were floating on the waters of the running rivulet. You know, by nature eggshells are very soft and very light, So as the waters of the rivulet were flowing, the eggshells were floating and shaking, and not for a second they were steady. The eggshells were tied to a string. That string was tied to a stick which was planted on the shore of the rivulet, the flowing rivulet. And each team used to tell number one, and the other team has to fire and powder the eggshell. So as the competition was going on, that was kept for that only.
Mobile.
Otherwise now it's gone.
No, I thought I just.
But we have to keep another Google Meet ready.
No, Sansar told that.
Victims of the temptation of the hormonal changes in life, and for the momentary distraction they fall prey to the desires of the flesh. It is this time that the strength and the moral power and the character and courage of Swami Vivekananda acts as a beacon light and inspiration for us how a Indian youth should do that. Now coming back to the story of shooting eggs, as Swami Vivekananda saw this team of two young men, instead of shooting the eggshells, they were shooting at the water, every one of them missing the target. As Swami Vivekananda, almost approaching them, smiled at them, they got a little irritated and asked, "Why are you smiling?" And Vivekananda told, "You are aiming to shoot the eggs, but you don't shoot the eggs, you are shooting the water." One of them arrogantly asked, "Can you do it?" Vivekananda told, "Let me try." He took the gun in his hand and stood in between the two teams. Suddenly one team told, "Number one eggshell." Vivekananda pulled the trigger and the eggshells were powdered. Another team told, "Number 5. Vivekananda shot at it and the whole eggshell was broken to pieces. It went on like this for a few moments, and almost all the shots of Vivekananda hit the target and the eggshells were shattered to pieces. Young men of America were astonished and astounded, and they asked, "How long are you practicing this game?" With a wonderful smile and laughing, roaring, Vivekananda told, "This is the first time I am touching gun in my life." "But sir, then how could you do it so successfully?" Vivekananda stood, raising himself to his full height, and told, "This is the secret of Hindu power of concentration." So this power of concentration, which Vivekananda speaks of again and again as the first and the last step for success and the only avenue, the gateway to get knowledge in every field, whether in science or spirituality, the power of focusing the mind, the intense power of concentration. It is called the mind.com. .com means concentration of mind. In Vivekananda's life, we find a practical demonstration of this excellent art of concentration, which is a cornerstone for development both in material life and spiritual life. He had a stupendous memory power. Once he was in New York, and every day he used to get Encyclopedia India, which are a voluminous book. To read one book will take months together. And when within a week few volumes were exchanged, the librarian became suspicious and asked the man who was bringing the book, "Is the man who is taking the book reading it or just glancing through the pages?" And when Swami Vivekananda was informed of it, Swami Vivekananda went to the library, met the librarian, and he told, "I have read all these volumes." And the librarian was struck dumb. He told, "It is impossible for a human being to do this feat, achieve this feat." Vivekananda asked him, "You can ask anything from any pages of any volumes." And as the librarian started asking questions, Vivekananda repeated everything on each volume with page number and all the details verbatim. Simply the man collapsed on the chair and he told, "It is not possible for any human being." And Vivekananda assures us that if Vivekananda can do, every one of you can do. This is where Vivekananda becomes supremely important for us, because he has given a practical evidence and demonstration of this thing, and he is also giving a confidence, a boosting to us that every one of us can do. It is not an exclusive talent, capability of a God man called Vivekananda. So that is why he becomes a supreme and a suitable idol, icon and ideal for Indian youngsters. He stands as a verifiable proof. Whatever he proves, you can verify it. a verifiable proof and a demonstrative evidence of all great things youngsters want to achieve in life. Strong, well-built body, wealth of character, knowledge and values, good looks. Look at the image of Swami Vivekananda. Once in Kochi, I met a young girl and I asked, "How do you feel about Vivekananda?" And she replied with smile, "The very image, what a godly image, one of the most magnificent personalities, Swamiji, I have seen. What an image of Swami Vivekananda. Compared to all other heroes, cinema and sports stars," he said, "this is something, a fulfilling, total character image of Swami Vivekananda, and the burning eyes of this man emitting fire, courage, at the same time love and compassion." So, strong, well-built body, wealth of character, knowledge and values, good looks, scholarship, moral and intellectual capabilities. Once Swami Vivekananda was in the house of Paul Dyson in Germany, who was a Sanskrit scholar, and after some time his wife told that Swami Vivekananda should be got out of this house. Paul Dyson went to meet Swami Vivekananda, who was in his library. As Paul Dyson met him, Vivekananda started quoting from some of his books verbatim. Simply overpowered by the amazing power of Swami Vivekananda, Paul Dyson fell in love with Vivekananda instantly. He came down and he told his wife, "If you want, you can leave the house for a few days, go out and stay. I will not leave this Indian from my house. I want him. I have fallen in love with Vivekananda." This is a tremendous impression that Vivekananda created by his extraordinary capabilities. His feeling for the poor and downtrodden, which whole of India and we Indians now require very, very urgently, and especially the unending love for India. This is a need of the hour that we Indians are not able to love our country, India. When Swami Vivekananda returned successfully, triumphantly from the Western tour after putting the flag of India and its spirituality in the West successfully, when he stepped in Rameshwaram, the Raja Bhaskara Setupati of Rameshwaram told Swamiji, "Swamiji, put your first step, your leg on my head." Vivekananda told, "Raja's head is worthy of respect. I will not put my first foot on your head, but I will put my foot on the holy soil of Bharata Mata, one of the most holiest of lands in the world." And when a reporter asked him, "How do you feel about India now? You have seen the poor, slave country full of disease, poverty, depression and negative mental attitude, having gone to the West full of wealth, flourish and success, having come back triumphantly, how do you feel about India now?" Swami Vivekananda for a moment became recollected, collecting himself fully, he told, "Before I left India, I thought India is a poor country, full of disease, hunger, thirst, a slave nation utterly down. After seeing America with all the pleasures, all the wealth, all the development and all the glory, and successfully coming back, now I don't feel India is great, but every dust of India has become great and holy to me." It was not that India is great alone, every dust of India has become great and holy to him. That was a great love he had developed and cherished in his bosom for the motherland, Vivekananda. We can go on like this with some of his heroic deeds, which you will find leaving the classic signature behavior of a great Indian character. And in his life we find all these things can be verified and we get a demonstrative evidence of all great things which we youngsters want to achieve and have an ambition, and we cherish it in our heart to get such greatness. He had scientific temperament. It was he who was the reason for the Tata Science Research Center in Bangalore. Extraordinary management ability. When he wrote the Constitution of Ramakrishna Mission Mission, 20 years later, United Nations Secretary was forming the Charter for the United Nations. He came across the Constitution of Ramakrishna Mission and he was thrilled and charmed to see that the Ramakrishna Mission agenda is what the United Nations agenda is going to be charted out. Both the agenda are tallying and of the same magnitude. And he was surprised and he remarked how 20 years before Vivekananda could imagine a world agenda and how he placed this as the aim and goal for the Ramakrishna movement, the total development of humanity and the world. And in addition to all this, supreme purity and great respect for women and constantly getting immersed in God. This is one of the great things we Indian youngsters should learn. Most of our great youngsters, great warriors, great heroes have all been spiritual. By spirituality, there is nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to feel inferior of. It is something supreme. Rama, Krishna, Hanuman, all great heroes, and they are all spiritual. By spiritual, you mean the ability to overcome all the obstacles of life and looking upon women as sister or mother, overcoming the temptations of the flesh and rising to the great heights of spirit. And Swami Vivekananda was the first and perhaps the only world level leader, a teacher who openly placed his full faith on the youngsters when he remarked and declared, "My faith is in the younger generation, the modern generation. Out of them will come my workers who will solve the problems of India like lions." This, against the usual elders and society people constantly blaming and criticizing youngsters, gives us a glimpse of how Swami Vivekananda loved and admired the youngsters of all countries and especially of India. Now coming to the question of what exactly is his message. There are hundreds of messages of Swami Vivekananda for youngsters and for Indians. We will take one or two. His overall message is, let your life itself be a message. His famous remark, having come into this world, leave a mark behind, is one vital important message we have to take in our life. Having been born, we should not die into the thin air, leaving no mark behind. Something we should leave behind, and that comes when you start living for others. Make life meaningful for yourself by making life useful for others. If your life becomes useful and others are benefited, then your life becomes meaningful. Try to create some benefit for country, for other people, even if it be in a small measure. It is not that every one of us should do something spectacular. I will narrate a small incident and you can take an idea how each one of us can contribute our own small share, but the small share can be significant. You knew a few years before there was a great flood caused by heavy rainfall and opening of the dams in Tamil Nadu. Almost all the roads were full and the flood waters rose up to the terrace level. And in Tamil Nadu, in one of the colony, 2-3 houses which were nearby, they were up to the water level to the terrace. And there was a pregnant lady who climbed the terrace and she was sitting there on the terrace, not knowing how to come out. Few of the youngsters saw this plight and suddenly they hatched upon a plan and they threw a rope to her and another end of the rope they tied to the building where they were, which was 3 buildings away from the lady's house. They tied the rope and on the rope they tied a chair and a young Muslim boy, I am forgetting his name, he tied himself to the chair and went to that house terrace and jumped there, took that pregnant lady on his lap, came back and after coming down, he got down the stairs and then took the heavy pregnant lady on his shoulders and took her to the maternity home and there she delivered the child. She was a Hindu pregnant lady delivering a child. That Hindu mother named the child after this Muslim young boy. See, this is what Vivekananda wanted and this is what he called as heroism, courage, nobility and bravery under all sorts of adverse situation. There was no barrier of any religion, no caste, no language, nothing. The human feelings, they came as flood tide and the young Muslim boy took the Hindu pregnant young mother on his shoulder. She delivered a baby and that boy she named after this Muslim young man. This is what gives meaning to life. It may not be a spectacular thing, but this is really enriching the life of an youngster. You can give life to one person. That is sufficient for us. Light is light, whether it is the light of the candle or it is the light of the sun. It's not necessary that every one of us should become a solar light or a sun. We can be a candle, a small mud lamp, but yet we will be shedding the same light. Both the lights are of the same quality, The only difference is in magnitude and in volume. That is, sun is of enormous light. We are of small light, but the light of the sun and the light of the candle are one and the same. If it is 1 million candle power, it may be one candle power light, that's all. But the same spark of divine power is in us, and every youngster can make their life meaningful by trying to benefit others who are surrounding them in whatever way it is possible. It may be a small one, but it can be a significant one. Thus, Vivekananda asked us to have a bigger view of life. Most of us, not only youngsters, but elders also have constantly doing 24 hours picnicking, and one of the famous picnic spot is me and myself. My development, my success, my glory, my name, my fame. Vivekananda accepts all this. What he says is, this individual development is and should be for and combined with the national development, because it is individuals who make a nation. He therefore wanted every youngster to develop physically, mentally, morally, intellectually and spiritually, and use this development for the collective uprising and progress of fellow citizens of our country, India. Because only a developed individual can create a developed nation, for only a burning lamp can ignite another lamp. And inspired you, a youngster like you can inspire the whole of India, and that is what Swamiji did by his life. One single Vivekananda set whole of India on the road to freedom with his fantastic fire of patriotic spirit. He beautifully combined spirituality and national development, where he joins Isha Bhakti and Desha Bhakti, which can lead to practical development and progress of our great country, India. In India, we in general are all religious people. All have some devotion to their gods. Whether one is a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist, it doesn't matter. Vivekananda says the same devotion to your God, to Allah, Jesus, Krishna or to Buddha, turn it towards the God in man, the citizens of India, irrespective of your and his religion. If you can turn the Isha Bhakti to Desha Bhakti, it becomes a powerful tool to bring a transformation in the work ethics and clean the country of corruption and bribery, leading to real positive and productive progress of the nation. Then it is not that the mosque, the temple or church alone will be holy and a place to worship, where you have to be pious and pure and free from corruption, but the whole of our country, India, becomes a grand temple and our countrymen our gods, and so the bribery and corruption cannot have a place there in the temple called India, and our work itself will become a worship, leading to tremendous rise in the productivity and creativity, leading to progress and development of our motherland, India. Whichever may be the field you are working in, the school, the office, the hotel, the theatre, legislative assembly or in the court, if you can think that your Jesus, your Allah, your Krishna is inside the living beings of India, the citizens, India becoming a temple and Indians becoming a god, can create a magical transformation in the work ethics, which is the only secret code for unlocking the door to development and progress. Therefore, Swami Vivekananda says, this is the first plank in the rebuilding of our country, the religious unity. Bring about a religious unity. It is only in India, which is a laboratory having tremendous researches, where all religions are living together. Maybe there are occasional clashes, but no other country has got such a bouquet of religion, where hundreds of religious people can come together. Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, and everybody can put their head together and live together. It is a marvelous exhibition of spiritual democracy. And India alone is a specimen example for this. The elders may not be able to accept this religious unity and apply it, as they are already old, tired and jaded and can't come out of their old conditioning of the mind. But I feel you youngsters can create this revolution of religious unity in your life through your friends and through your circle, and the whole world will look at India and learn the lesson and marvel at the tremendous grit, power, determination and the ability of Indian youngsters, whether he is a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist. Listen to his remarkable remark, which is quite significant. He says, no nation is great just because the parliament has enacted this or that law, but because the people living in the country are good and great. This is the tremendous Desha Bhakti that can make the people good and great. And real good is only when you are unselfish. Unselfishness alone is good. That is the one question you will find coming out exploding on you when you will read the fiery speeches of Swami Vivekananda and his writings. Are you unselfish to your core, to your bones? For unselfishness is God itself. It doesn't matter to which religion or language or caste or creed you belong to. Like that Muslim young boy carrying a Hindu pregnant lady, which is a godly act, every one of us can give a godly contribution in the hundi box of the temple of India. All other gods are theoretical, but this unselfishness, which is a practical God, brings the application of God in our day-to-day life in individual as well as at the national level. Country first and then me should be the formula. That makes a man a full man, a great Indian, and that is what Vivekananda was expecting and is expecting from Indian youngsters. Now, what are the three personality components that makes a great man? We have to make a difference between a great man and a big man. Great man is a man who leaves a tremendous positive impact upon the society. A big man is one who has got power, wealth, status, and all things, but he leaves a negative impact on the society, causes lots of damage, and puts the whole civilization back in despair and halts the progress of the countries. Like many of the terrorists they do, they become big people, spontaneous, spectacular, exploding activities, blinding our eyes. Oh, how they have done it, how the WTC could be exploded. It looks something fantastic, but it is of no use to us. Whereas a great man gives tremendous life to the living people, makes the whole country start living again with great freshness and sets the adrenaline flowing in the whole civilization. So three components that are required for a personality of a great man. The personality components of a great man, first is great in heart, second is great in heart, second is great in head, and third is great in hands. Great in heart, great in head, great in deed. Heart is a seat of emotion where you start feeling, because you may have intellect, but it is the emotion which gives motion to the intellect. In India, many of us are intelligent people, intellectuals, but we don't move in the sense that we don't act. We see the poverty, we start justifying it, we give lectures, but we don't do any action because there is no emotion, no heart. Having intellect alone doesn't work. It requires a heart to move that intellect into action, because heart is a seat of emotion. They say emotion gives motion to intellect. So a heart to feel, a head to conceive and find solution, the brain. Thirdly, the hands to work out the solution which we have found out. Three beautiful examples I will give you how it makes a combination of heart, head and hands to create a great man. There was a blind girl selling oranges on one of the roads of the airport. After their meeting, these officers from one club, they started running to catch their flight. On their way, as they were running, many of them dashed against the boxes and the baskets having oranges, and the oranges were all scattered all over the road, and these officers ran to catch their flight as they were in a hurry. One of the officers, seeing that oranges are getting scattered all over the road, turned back and saw that the poor girl selling was a blind girl. He was touched. He thought, let the flight be missed. Let me miss the flight, but I can't miss this flight to great level of human life by helping this poor girl. He picked up all the oranges, put it in her basket and handed over a 200 rupees note to her and told, my dear child, I am extremely sorry. All your oranges are put back in the basket. Today's your wholesale value of 200. Please take it. And he started running towards the airport. And behind, as he was running, he heard the voice of the girl shouting, are you God? Sir, are you God? And as he was approaching the airport, where his friends were waiting, they were shouting, you are going to miss the flight, you are going to miss the flight. And they all ran inside and they went to the security checkup. And this man smiled and remarked, I may miss the flight, but I will never miss the light and that wonderful comment from that blind girl calling me, "Are you God? Are you God?" This is the heart to feel. In many of our life situations, we don't feel anything for others. For the progress and development of our country, what is essential, what is really important and sensible is, do you feel that this country belongs to you? Do you feel for the people of the country? Do you feel for the people of your house? Do you feel for the people of the locality? Somewhere you should start feeling, because without feeling there is no difference between you and inanimate things. I found even dogs and cats and birds also feel and they respond to our friendly actions. But a man without feeling is as good as a dead log of wood. So Vivekananda wanted this feeling. Do you feel, my dear countrymen? That was one of the most powerful and explosive questions Vivekananda's complete works comes out with. Do you feel? The second quality is, feeling alone is not enough. You must have the head, the intelligence to find a way or a solution out to help the people who are suffering. Here we come across a beautiful story of sage Vishwamitra. One of his disciples who was to go to heaven, he was pushed down from the heaven. He left from the earth and he was traveling to the heaven, but the devatas in the heaven, they pushed him out, telling that you have no place. Vishwamitra was having the great heart, moved by the compassion. He wanted to do something for the disciple. Now the heart is there, he was feeling the disciple is coming down. Now what to do? Simply feeling alone, emotion alone would not help. You have to break the brain, rotate it, crush it and rub it to find a solution for the problem of life. Suddenly, sage Vishwamitra, one of the most marvelous scientific sage we had, he created a Trishanku Swarga, what in science is called as the space city. And he created Trishanku Swarga and the disciple landed on the Swarga and he started living there. All the devatas then showered flower petals on Vishwamitra and they told, this is fantastic, compassion in action, mercy in action, kindness in action. People talk of kindness, compassion, service and everything in talks, in theories, but this is compassion in action when you find a solution for the problems of our countrymen. Thirdly, not only that solution is important or you find a solution that will make you successful, we have to work out the solution to its final end. And that is where the heart to feel and the head to conceive achieves its climax and the acme of its fullness when the solution is worked out to its completion. There was a great lady in India. When she was young, her name was Manu and she was the daughter of a minister. One day during the Deepavali festival, as was the usual custom in that country, all the people came to a river bank to celebrate Deepavali. And the ministers and the kings and the courtiers and the soldiers all were there on the boats. And at that time, few young boys of the villages were swimming on the shores of the river, when suddenly they started hearing a noise. Oh, hello, crocodile, crocodile. Children, please climb onto the banks of the river. So everywhere the noise started coming, warning the young boys, young children to come to the shore and to save themselves from the dangerous crocodiles. But nobody was doing anything. At that time, a 7-year-old young lady just tucked her petticoat on her hip, jumped into the water, swam towards the young boys, and of the young children, one of the children was struggling for breath and all other children had climbed to the shore, to the bank of the river, and this young girl pulled that small boy onto her shoulders, swam back, came to her boat, and when she came near her boat, all the elders on the boat took hold of the two children and then took them onto their boat. And the father took the daughter on his shoulders and started circumambulating, dancing in joy, going round and round. And this girl was the famous Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai, of whom Swami Vivekananda was greatly fond of. They say, "Khoob ladi mardani thi, wo to Jhansi wali Rani thi." She was not a woman, but she was a man of great valor and courage. All other people were shouting, "Get onto the shore, get onto the bank." But the solution, jumping into the river, taking hold of the boy on the shoulder and putting him on the shoulder and bringing him to the boat and saving him is the execution, the working out of the solution part. So these three things combined makes a man great, and these three things combined in Swami Vivekananda, the three personality components of a great man. A great in heart, great in head and great in deed. And this makes a total, full, complete Indian citizen. This is what we need in our country, and that is the message of Swami Vivekananda for youngsters. Become great. Feel for the poor and needy people of India. Use your intelligence to find a solution for the problems of India. Then work out the solution successfully to remove the problems of our countrymen. Finally, we come to the core of his teachings, which is one of the most touching teachings and which I am very fond of, calling on each one of us to the greatness of our own individual nature. He says each man is great and one should accept this and believe in it. Vivekananda's life itself was a wonderful exposition of one single man working out miracles. He says infinite power, knowledge, capability are already inside you. You can do anything and everything. Stand up, be bold, take up the responsibility on your own shoulders and know that you are the maker of your own destiny. Here comes a beautiful story. Once on an evening, summer evening, as the clouds were gathering and the sun was about to set on the west, darkness enveloped on the village which was down the valley, and the sun was worried, if I go down on the western horizon, who will give light to this village? And therefore the sun, the Surya, shouted, who will give light to this world? There was no answer. Second time he repeated the question, who will give light to this world? Nobody answered. With great worry and burden in his heart, as the sun was about to set on the western horizon, he asked the third time, is there anybody who can give light when I am gone? A small feeble voice came up, I. The Surya, the sun, was surprised. He peeped out and saw a old 80-year-old lady lighting a mud lamp. As she lighted, the wick glowed and the flame shouted, I. That small flame from the mud lamp shouted, I will give light, I will give light. And the sun, with great joy, shouted, Salam Alaikum Sardar. And the sun set down. Everywhere there was darkness. But in the little hut of the old 80-year-old lady, there was bright light caused by that single mud lamp and the flame shedding that light. Instantly, all the nearby houses, people from the nearby houses came with their mud lamp, lighted their lamps, and within few minutes the whole village became luminous and the village houses were lighted up. So one single lamp, what a tremendous power, what a tremendous possibilities are inside it. Vivekananda says the infinite possibilities of a single man like you can work wonders. Do not lose yourself in the crowd and ask what I can do. You can do anything and everything, he says, for flowers make a garland, drops make a river, bricks make a building. It's people like you and me who make India. Be proud you are an Indian and make India become proud of you. So these are the few ideas of Swami Vivekananda. You should go through his books, read the life of Swami Vivekananda, which is more wonderful than any of the Western adventurous movie thrillers. There are 2 volumes of Swami Vivekananda's life, hundreds and hundreds of inspiring and hair-raising incidents in his life, and the messages conveyed by him has got an electric effect on your mind and body. So with these few words, I pray, may the fiery power, the personality and thoughts of Swami Vivekananda permeate your whole personality and inspire you to higher and higher modes of thinking and living. My good wishes and prayers to all of you who have participated in this program. May the blessings of Swami Vivekananda be on all of you, and may there be great development and progress in your life, both in the material field as well as in the spiritual field. My congratulations to Kerala Ramakrishna Vivekananda Bhavaprachar Parishad for beautifully organizing this event, keeping in view the future of the youngsters and the future of our country, which is going to give light to the whole world. Thank you. Jai Swami Vivekananda Maharaj ki Jai. Namaste to all of you.